The following contest is scheduled for one fall, and it is for the Welterweight Championship.
Welterweight title to be at stake here in historic Turner's Hall in Cleveland, Ohio. Of course, I'm Joe Dombrowski, your Benjamin C. Steele, and this is Mr. 50 Shades. Bret Havoc, the beautiful one himself, has been a Midwest staple for the better part of a decade, but Bret Havoc really made a big-time impression in his first welterweight singles competition. It technically wasn't a singles match. It was, but it wasn't. It was a triple threat deal because it was Ace Perry, it was Gory, and it was Bret Havoc elimination rules. Bret Havoc wound up getting the deciding fall. Bret Havoc pinned Ace Perry, and Ace Perry, keep in mind, the first welterweight champion. Ace Perry's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster lately, been a bit of a slump. Bret Havoc, the latest to reap the benefits. Bret and Ace have a long history, but can Bret leapfrog Ace right to the welterweight title shot that Ace wants so badly and win? Imagine what Ace Perry could feel about that. Imagine the feather in the cap for Bret Havoc.
Well, it certainly did open up a lot of eyes, and that's what puts him in this situation right now. And Joe, I think you'd have to agree that he might have been the wild card in that triple threat matchup. He might have been the one that if you were going to bet money on, you might not have put it on him, but he pulled out the victory.
Well, this is somebody that a lot of critics have passed on as far as who to put their money on. Nate Wings, 5'3", 135 some odd pounds. The littlest welterweight has come up big in every title defense, whether your name's Lee Moriarty, Dylan Bostic, Atticus Cogar, or certainly Gory on pay-per-view at welterweight 3. Let's go to Lundell for the official introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, the boss down to a referee is Nate Pierce. Introducing first is the challenger. From Indianapolis, Indiana, weighing in at 184 pounds, he is the Midwest best kept secret, Bret 50 Shades of Havoc. And his opponent, from Dayton, Ohio, weighing in at 130 pounds, he is the welterweight champion, Nate Wings.
Master of the welterweight division right now, Nate Wings has not turned down any challenge and showing confidence as well. I don't know what it is, Ben, about the state of Indiana that has churned out so many top welterweight contenders. Bret Havoc from Indianapolis, Ace Perry from Indianapolis, Dylan Bostic born in Indianapolis, but certainly they're all in contention against the Dayton-born and bred Nate Wings.
Well, I guess you could say it's a battle of Ohio versus Indiana.
I wonder where that battle existed, but apparently it does, as Nate Wings coming out of the blocks, frenetic pace. Look at this, coming at Bret Havoc from all sides. Bret is just out to lunge, diving, but Nate Wings connects the standing moonsault, almost put him away early.
That was almost the quickest title defense we've seen thus far.
And Bret Havoc needs to regroup.
And Nate Wings not looking to get paid by the hour.
Oh, Bret Havoc outsmarts Wings. Havoc sends Wings into the guardrail. Able to sidestep Nate. You got to slow Nate down. You got to neutralize that speed if you even have a hope against him. And certainly Bret Havoc has come out here, if not realizing right away, certainly realizing by now, Nate Wings, regardless of size, absolutely lethal when you allow him to create that opening.
Well, if Bret Havoc wasn't on people's radars before, he certainly is now, and that certainly goes with Nate Wings as well. We know how special Nate Wings is. We know what a unique competitor he is, and how he always just gives 110% no matter what the situation. Oh, geez, that might have taken a few percent out of him. But do you think he could possibly underestimate Bret Havoc? I mean, we know that he scouted him, but do you think when you get that momentum as the champion that might play to your detriment?
It's always possible. With Nate Wings, I don't think it's likely because, again, these are odds he's been against his literally entire 8 or 9 year career. You can see the bug eyes on Nate Wings as his oxygen is compromised. Bret Havoc was introduced as the Midwest best kept secret, and while I'm not a big fan of Bret's attitude, I agree with that assessment. Bret Havoc is a guy who's dominated promotions in and around Indiana And Ohio, Pennsylvania, surrounding states, it doesn't necessarily give that same kind of coverage to him that Indiana does. Bret Havoc, if he can expand here to Cleveland and capture one of the championships that the wrestling world's been zeroing in on, man, all eyes go on Bret Havoc, and it'll be a name on a lot of people's lips moving forward. But check out Wings able to adjust. Caught Bret with his head ducked too soon, the enziguri kick, and Bret Havoc now dazed.
You know, absolutely, you got to think about, too, going in to the welterweight pay-per-view, being the champion is a huge deal. Not only are you going to be the face of that, but that could lead to even bigger and better opportunities. Wait a minute.
Nate Wings lost his balance there. I believe Bret had kicked the leg out from under Nate Wings. Dropped Wings' throat first. Bret into the cover now. Just barely out of the ropes for one. And we haven't made this public yet, BC Steel, but whoever wins this matchup will go on to Welterweight 4 on pay-per-view, VOD, MP4, and DVD to defend the title in a four-way matchup with the other three top contenders, that being Ace Perry, the first champion, Gory, the second ever welterweight champion, and Dylan Bostic, who says he would have beaten Nate Wings a month ago if not for the involvement of course, Ace Perry, who helped Nate Wings just in the way of keeping Bostic from using the welterweight championship as a weapon. We saw all three entities involved, all three entities at each other's throats. Wings and Perry were former friends until the title drove a wedge between those as well. Tensions have never been higher surrounding the welterweight title. We hope to settle at Welterweight 4 on pay-per-view, DVD, VOD, and MP4 as Wings catches the foot of Bret Havoc. Havoc was too busy tying his hair back to focus on Wings countering out of this thing, and Wings with a drop kick, the vanity of Bret Havoc, the imagery of Bret Havoc, the style over substance may come back to haunt him here as Wings charges through, but gets caught. Ouch. On Wings' awkward landing, got hit in the side of the head and tumbled all the way to the floor.
Well, that'll give Bret Havoc a lot of opportunity to tie his hair up, and he kind of designed that he wants.
Well, and there goes his hair, so enough about that.
Well, apparently
you
got to get it just right. In my younger days, I actually had a lot of hair, and, well, I know the pain that he goes through, but he's also missing out on an opportunity to just deliver to Nate Wings. You mentioned earlier, you got to neutralize that speed, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say...
I think Bret just realized that you can't win the title via countout.
I was going to say, tying your hair up and winning via countout is not going to get you the welterweight championship.
Yeah, and that's the vanity of Bret Havoc. Bret Havoc truly believes he's the best-looking guy in the room. He's the sexiest guy in the country. No matter what, from Indianapolis to Cleveland to Las Vegas, women will throw themselves at him without a second to think about. As Bret Havoc focusing now on the back of Nate Wings, into the cover, count of two, and certainly the back's a big part of the human anatomy. If your back is compromised, it's going to affect a lot of Nate Wings' mobility.
Well, to quote a comedian, I don't know if you know this about your back, but it's kind of everything. When you're walking, when you're standing, when you're sitting, there's always pressure at some point on your back. And if you're expected to compete in that ring, any kind of back injury that you have, especially with the speed that Nate Wings goes at, that is a huge, huge detriment to defending that welterweight championship.
Bret Havoc with history with all three contenders I named earlier, Bostic, Perry, and Gory. Particularly Perry and Bostic. Of course, Gory, part of that three-way that Bret was successful in to get this championship opportunity a month ago. And now Bret being a bit more relentless, staying on his foe and very proud of himself as well.
Well, he's certainly not a man short on confidence. I'm sure he would tell you that in case you ever doubted him.
Cover for two. Bret never met a mirror he didn't fall in love with.
Well, I guess when you like what you're looking at back at you, I guess there's gives you more time to admire yourself, so to speak. Imagine how happy he would be to admire himself with that welterweight championship over his shoulder.
Oh, we never hear the end of it. Nate Wings is elevated. Wings kicks his leg, trying to get away inside cradle. Wings could catch him here. 2 count only. Wild swings and a miss. Wings the Hurricane Rana stacks him up. This'll no. And again, just Wings is so rapid he can pull these potentially match-ending maneuvers out of nowhere.
Well, that's why you got to always be on top of your game when you're in the ring with Nate Wings. It only takes 3 seconds, and he has a multitude of ways to which he can shock you and get that victory.
Standing shooting star up the back of beautiful Bret. This could do it. No. And how do you defend against Nate Wings when you don't know what direction he's coming at you from? Like now! The tope connects! Good grief! You see the prize at stake, and you see the determination Nate Wings brings to the welterweight division.
Well, you never get a second to rest when you're in there against Nate Wings. That's why I mentioned earlier, Bret Havoc made a mistake. He had him neutralized. He had him on the ground.
Oh, Bret caught Wings in midair! The lung blower, and Wings, I think the first thing he hit was Bret Havoc's knees. Low German with a bridge for 2.
And that may be the closest Bret Havoc has come to this point to, winning the welterweight championship. Almost said retaining.
Well, in Bret's mind, it's a formality. Good grief, boots scrape in the corner. And again, you're seeing, Ben, why Bret Havoc is the Midwest best-kept secret. Nate Wings, the best of the welterweights, and Bret's hanging with him in a number of manners, a number of styles.
I don't know if there is a good defense to being kicked in the face, but Nate Wings hasn't found it at this point, and we've said it a number of times, but that is a great strategy against Nate Wings, but he brought him right back up on his feet.
I'll give Bret the advantage in the striking game. Certainly can be very physical, backcracker, more traditional style, and look at the instinct of Wings to roll under the ropes to protect himself from a potential fall.
And this is a point right now that Bret Havoc needs to not jaw to the people. He needs to get Nate Wings in there in the center of the ring, get those shoulders down, and put as much weight as he can. This is where the mistake comes in. I don't want to say he's underestimating Nate Wings, but he's certainly wasting time. He needs to stay on him.
I think Bret's more focused with proving a point here. Maybe this audience that hasn't welcomed him with open arms like he had hoped. Been winning the matchup, but Wings, look at this. Oh, we've seen this before. Bret tried to counter out, but Wings catches himself. Springs off the middle rope instead of the top. Still got the torque on the cutter. And Nate Wings retains the welterweight title. You saw the struggle between Wings and Bret. Normally it's a seamless motion. Wings springs up off the top rope and back down with the cutter. Bret was giving resistance. Wings couldn't get all the way up to the top, but amazing mid-move adjustment to the second rope to retain that championship in fashion as Wings moves on to welterweight 4. Corey Perry Bostic is the littlest welterweight, ready for his biggest challenge, Ben.
Well, I think it's definitely possible. You'd have to say that we saw the closest potential new champion right there with Bret Havoc, but it wasn't able to get done. Nate Wings found another way to retain that championship, and I'm not a betting man, but if I were, my money's on Nate Wings going into welterweight pay-per-view.